Has the market changed its mind about what the Fed may do next?
We have got to get inflation behind us. I wish there were a painless way to do that. There isn't.
I think this is a two-part policy mistake of historic proportion.
I think the odds of a recession in 2023 are very high.
I think you'd offer the American people an apology.
I'm Chris Crystal with Finance Stockholm, and welcome to September 28th, 2022, and what's going on in Sweden, what we're looking at, and possibly what you could see going forward. So our Swedish government is still yet to be formed. We do have some moves forward on the coalition, but it's still not clear. And oddly enough, you don't see any news on their web pages either. Maybe they're posting it on social media. I don't use social media aside from LinkedIn, so I can't see that. But I haven't seen any sort of news. And when you look into the calendar for the Riksdagen, you don't see really any announcements coming up about coalition votes and so forth. But so we look to get something coming out. But the outgoing minister, Magdalena Andersson, has held a press conference. We have the Nord Stream 1 and 2 running through the Baltic Sea. We like to call it the Eastern Sea. And the pipeline is leaking, and it's emitting a lot of gas, so much so that you can see it at the surface where it's bubbling up. We had a statement last night saying this was not caused by a seismological event. We had no earthquakes. And now at the press conference, the governor, or the prime minister, she said that this strongly looks towards sabotage, that these were caused by explosions. You have the sabotage issue echoed by Peter Hultqvist, who is our defense minister. We also had our foreign minister, Anne Lind, participating in this conference or presentation to the press. And it was made clear to Swedish citizens that this was not an attack on Sweden, and that this had occurred outside the economic zone or boundaries of Sweden and Denmark. So there's a strong implication that maybe the Russians have sabotaged their own pipeline to cut off the gas supply to Europe. And this seems more like a kind of statement to posture or draw the curtains around what Sweden and Finland are doing entering into NATO. And so as we're waiting on our membership, this becomes an interesting discussion because, you know, I don't know what the long-term implications are if how long this government gets to stay in place until we have the coalition, or if they could extend their stay. But the Nord Stream 1 and 2 are damaged and not working. And this is all on the back of what Chancellor Scholz had been doing from Germany down in the Middle East. And so he met with the Saudis, he met with the United Arab Emirates, and he also met with Qatar. And then there could be some others that were met in there as well. And Qatar would be something long-term. That could occur in maybe 5 or 10 years, but it would not occur anytime soon. And it would be a significantly smaller portion of their cubic gas needs in Germany. Germany had been getting about 50 billion cubic tons, 50 million cubic tons from Germany. And in terms of that, it was 50 billion cubic tons from Germany. And that represented 55% of their needs for gas to generate electricity. So we see the reflection of what the lack of gas from Germany had already done. We saw the lowering of the reserves in Germany for natural gas, and we saw a lowering of their PMI figures. We've also seen a lowering of the Dutch PMI figures, and both of those two countries are significant for Sweden as they represent large trading partnerships for us. And yes, we do use a lot of, or we manufacture what we call automobiles, but the Volvo heavy trucks. We also have a significant interest in what we call broadcasting. So that represents a lot of our trade as well. And that could include companies like Spotify or Acast, but it's not clear to me how much of this broadcasting equipment we're actually manufacturing. Maybe we can get an economist on to discuss more of what they're doing in that industry. But the lowered PMIs across Europe are a little troubling, especially because our larger trading partners are not showing any real strength. Although Germany has been able to get the reserves up to 90 or better percentage plus on their reserves, but those are to be used in reserve, emergency. So if you're trying to replace what you received before, 55%, from a party that you're no longer going to deal with, and the possibility when that gets relationship gets renewed, that supply would be delayed because of the damage done, then you don't really have a working solution to get you through to when you need it. And remember this, the reserves or the gas supply coming from the Middle East really won't be taking place until the end of the year. So there's a good 3 months here coming up with cold showers, stoplights not working, and Swedish society is being told that we're going to have freeze outs. So there will be periods of time when there is no electricity to your region, and how to deal with that. So obviously, this is not good, and we still have a ways to go. We don't see any movement towards a peace negotiation. So we do have a lot of NATO support. Sweden and Finland are joining. And Italy, I know everybody wants to call her a fascist, but Hillary Clinton came out and talked about it the other day positively. And not just because it was a woman, but also because she supported the NATO and what is going on with NATO and the Ukraine. So we look to longer engagement there, and what Sweden is going to do, and how we would be involved, and what is the effect will have on our power needs and power consumption. Now in Stockholm as well, the renters are going to have to pay a 9.5% increase in their rent. So not quite keeping up with inflation, just under it, because we had inflation at 9.83, but that 9.5% increase, that is a significant chunk for a lot of people who maybe can't afford that. But we try to see some positives, and so there is a small article in the Swedish Svenska Dagbladet where you have a executive from Zurich. She's Swedish, and she's talking about how sustainability is really helping their business grow, because there is a focus on sustainability. We have a former founder of a company that was Broadband, which was sold out to Telenor, and I believe he's still a significant owner in Telenor. He's talking about doing a change to the electrical network market, where the use of batteries in places where they're going to build the batteries here in Sweden could give a more flat rate economy on the electricity prices. So people would see a quote unquote, sustainable price that they could afford. And the price fluctuations would not be so significant, and possibly working it on where they would be selling it differently and feeding the need to the public. But that would be in by 2025 at the best. But so we still have that time to get through, and no real bright horizons on sight. We still have storm clouds in the market. The Fed is going to meet, and they're going to discuss. You have comments in today's Wall Street Journal from Kashkari, who's the Minneapolis Fed, talking about the need to raise rates, continuing to combat inflation and get the economy under control. There was also discussion about what the labor market would look like in the US, and if that would actually slow or grow GDP, and maybe going from a 4 or below 4% unemployment up closer to a 6%. And then we really are not seeing any bright light. But also in Sweden, we have a continued debate about medicinal use of CBD. There's been a company called Hemply Balance, which has been under scrutiny from the Svenska Dagbladet, where they were talking about the fact that you can buy the product in Sweden, although it's illegal for this company to sell it, but there was another company established to sell it. And now you see board membership flight, you see executive flight, you see a number of people pulling away from this company, And this is really interesting because in the world, in the global trend, we do see that there is a legalization process, at least for medical use for cannabis. The UN had comments about, had come out with their policy that was a change. Europe has been changing slightly. Germany has moved towards a legalization of cannabis oil, where you had a 0.2% allowance, and Sweden had a 0% allowance on THC contained in the product for CBD oil or CBD component products. And that now looks to be gone. So you will not see any more of the product, and there looks to be a ban on this company selling into Sweden. It is a UK listed company backed by a number of Swedes, but it looks to be shut down. So this will bring us closer to a discussion about the criminality and medicinal use and treatment of people. We do have 33,000 homeless people in Sweden currently, and we haven't seen a solution, but we do see a rise in the criminality, and that's by the gang violence. But aside from all of that, I think maybe what's better to focus on would be looking at the dollar. This is a safe haven right now, continues to go up. There's talk about the 10-year and where the yield is close to 4. Now, we had a discussion last night with Anders Hagland. He has a website for trading coaching and discussion of different products and portfolio and investing, and he can help you with the management of the funds. And he comes up with different strategies, looking at it more on a technical basis. But also, when you look at the currencies in the currency market, the Chinese yuan, which is traded outside of China, is having trouble staying at the current levels, and China is not able to really prop it up. They're working hard at it, but we'll see. So while you have the kind of disarray in Europe, the dollar with the rising rates and stable government, so to speak, is a safe haven right now for many people, and may continue onward up on that trend as a result of this. So I think if you'd want to take a further look, please look at the video where we had a discussion with Anders Hagland. We had some discussion after he went through his technical analysis, and you can go to his website and you can look and get help from him if you'd like, through his different subscription models and so forth. But that would be an area where you could see some light in your, or positive gains in your portfolio by looking at different currencies and different strategies there. Of course, we're not recommending anything. We're just saying places to look.
Crystal, you have been listening, and what are your reflections? And do you have any questions to Anders about the Stockholm stock market?
Yeah, I thank you very much, Anders. Great presentation. I would agree with you on the most part that it's very depressing. I don't see any bright horizons, so to speak. I really, and it just came out, or it came out today, that the China GDP has been lowered by the World Bank. So, I mean, oil will get cheaper, but the overall state of the economy is not so good. And I just don't see any good reasons to be involved. And, when I was looking at your investor chart, and if you look at the industrials, which, the component parts which make up the investor kind of portfolio, to me, it looks like it could go more down. I'd be more worried about 130 before I would say, okay, because they have the currency effect. The Swedish krona is getting very weak. We don't see any real sign on why the krona would improve. We don't have a government in place, and they're taking time, and then they're infighting. And then you have this wild card effect that looks like it'll occur with the Swedish Democrats, because they're being excluded from any post. So they'll really be able to do whatever they want. And they can kind of deviate from the party move, despite the fact that they were part of the win. If it hadn't been for their support level, this government wouldn't be coming into place. And then what I would also say is that if you look at the, and you pointed this out about people drawing in their spending habits and buying less of the non-necessity goods. I think a lot of that's going to be taken up. I mean, this is clear. We've had the first month now where people have their electricity cost equaling as much or possibly more than what they're paying in mortgage. And then the second month is coming, and there's no sign in sight that the electricity rates will go down, nor is it likely achievable that the Moderaternas party promise of November 1st and lowering the electricity cost will be achieved. Or at least that's the criticism from the Social Democrats, but they lost. So maybe it's kind of they're bitter, but what do you see any positive horizons? I really don't.
Well, the only positive is that everybody is so pessimistic, and people has already taken that in account. So it is no surprise if things get very bad, but it could be worse than bad, of course. So we'll see. But what I learned that you have these shifts in paradigm shifts, that something that is so obvious, so important now for a few months. A few months later, everybody has forgot about it because something else new happened. For example, Brexit or Trump winning the presidency, or the New Year bug. So things happen.
I'll pause you on that one, because Brexit was a more European trade issue. But when Trump won, the policies he enacted actually were deregulation and cutting taxes. And these are key moves to drive your economy forward. Yeah. And as a result, we saw a very strong economy. So, you don't have to like the orange man, but the effect he had on the market was very positive in the overall.
Yeah, but I mean that's something that you are, the common sense, the common opinion is A, and everybody is convinced A, and then for half year or something, a few months anyway, and then something happens, and then A is forgotten. Now it's B, and there's something completely different.
Yeah, I mean,
I mean that, but just because it's so pessimistic now, and it makes no sense to be in another way, it doesn't make it impossible that maybe in January the mood have shifted because of this and this and this, and that could be inflation coming down, could be a shift in the government in Russia, so the new government let the gas flow again to Europe, or something like that. But that you don't know that now, and it's no point of speculating in that right now. But I think it's important to remember that shifts in the paradigm has happened before. So I don't know, but I can make several reasons why market not should end at bottom at 1700. It could as well go down to 1400 at 1250. We can also make a lot of reasons why we could also suddenly shift and go up. But I just watch what's happening and see how the market reacts. Yeah. And now it's natural that we should, I will be surprised if it don't go down to 1700. But you can be right that it could go further down, of course. But then you see it in the charts.
Yeah, I'm just, what I'm looking at is this seems to be more of a rubber hits the road. The reality bites, and you have this energy issue that just hasn't been solved. And even if we had a transition in the Russian government, and even if Putin was pushed out, which I see is strongly unlikely, The thing is that Nord Stream 1 has had a leak in the in our sea, and now seems to have had an explosion, but it's not being called an explosion. We have a seismologist saying that it's not a bomb, but you know, Putin was saying it's going to be shut down due to maintenance, and now, well, here you go. You need a lot of maintenance to repair a pipe, and I mean, I don't know how far under the sea that is, but it's pretty tough working conditions, even for robots. So even if we saw that shift, we still don't see the gas. We don't know when the pipelines could come back on through Ukraine. And we had shut down the other pipelines from other Eastern European countries. So when I look at it, I don't see the actual moves to change the sentiment. I would agree with you on sentiment, and they can be like a cat following a laser beam, you know, distracted by whatever's right in front of them. But I just don't see anything. I mean, France already had to lower their production due to high energy cost. Germany already had issues with energy in the summer, and you know, we're already seeing places like Turkey having food shortage problems. And the problem with food is you can't just grow it overnight. It takes a few months, usually the summer, to grow, and we're past summer. So what I'm saying is, yeah, I may be overly pessimistic. But
you're not alone. You're not the only one.
No, and I just think it's a little early to come out with a positive, because what about a shorting strategy? Why aren't you looking at shorting position?
I do.
Okay.
I do, of course. I mean, if you look at the charts, of course you do that.
So what's your favorite short?
So I mean, it depends on what kind of regulation you have. If you're allowed to go short, I manage money, and then some of those strategies, most of the strategies we can't go short, but we can have a high degree of liquidity, so we don't have to have so much stocks. So of course, and so if you look at the charts, of course you should work on the short side, of course, and then I see you have downtrends and you have sell signals, and you just have to look up for signal the opposite way, so you don't take too much risk if the turns. But now, I mean, it looks like I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if it goes down to 1700, and that it's maybe 6-8% down, and well, if you're allowed, well, yes, of course, you could think of going short, of course.
Do you have any favorite shorts? Or I mean, I realize you may have.
Yeah, I mean, you could get to OMX, for example. That's a very liquid market. You could go short in that, but you have. I mean, I could. If you have 2 hours more, I can show you 100 examples of good shorting stocks right now.
Do you put those on your webpage, the shorts, or do you recommend puts instead of shorting an actual stock? If you can't short the stock, do you recommend?
Yeah, depends on the person who's doing it, and your strategy, and your knowledge of puts and options and so on. So that depends. So I don't give of public advices to my clients, and so this is just this is no advices, this is just my ideas. So it's not recommendations and so on.
No, forgive me for asking that.
But if you consult me, I can help you with your strategies, but you have to decide yourself what to do exactly. But I can help you. What kind of strategies, what suits you, and we can go through which kind of situations you should focus on, and what beware of when you trade and so on. So
And of course, everybody could connect with you via the webpage information and to get those strategies.
Yeah, they can if they hire me as a coach, yes.
Yeah, and then you could go through it. That would be great. Yeah, but I short term, I see a lot of trouble, and I think, you know, the fundamentals just aren't going to support the market. And then you add in this sentiment, or, you know, there are some fears about the stability of the EU and the euro, and how that's going to hold up. I mean, you do have the Chinese yuan having problems. China's not really able to prop it up right now, and they have their Belt and Road initiative looking like it's about to take some hits. So I guess all I could say is we're all in it together. It's a global. We had the global pandemic, and now we have the global economic.
There's no safe haven outside the dollar.
So to restate, you know, what I really liked was where you pointed out on the dollar chart, because personally, you know, what I see is the dollar, of course, you had the Fed raising rates, and they give the indication they're going to have to do more. So of course you'll get the better yield, maybe. But then you have kind of the legacy value of the dollar, and, you know, China is having trouble keeping the yuan up. They're actually having to pump money into it. So it's so I really found it interesting where you pointed out the dollar and possibly at an inflection point versus the Swedish crown.
Thank you. Yeah, I think very interesting to follow the dollar and the 10-year bill in US, because they will give clues of the stock market if they react something big is going on.
Yeah. When you're looking at the dollar and the 10-year, how much are you looking at the Swedish industrial companies? You know, like you had a position, or you mentioned investor. So how much of the industrial multiple expansion do you look at to kind of make that assessment on the dollar crown?
I just look at the trends, and it's if I make evaluation of the possible profits in the company and so on, then you have to look at the currency and so on. But I just look at the trends. If the dollar goes up, it usually signs of low expectations of growth. And that it's a dollar, it's a safe haven of people. If people are unsecure and afraid, they put the money in the dollar. And if it's a big crisis, money goes to United States. And it was a little bit ironic when you had this subprime crisis, 2008, 2009, whatever. Then the crisis was in the United States.
Right.
And there was bankruptcy almost for a stately owned government. This lending facilities that is backed by the United States, and they were bankrupt actually. And then, okay, it's a crisis. Okay, then we buy dollar. That's very, very ironic that they buy the thing that is in the middle of the crisis. So yeah, it's very rather strong reflex, to buy dollar when it's unsecure.
Yeah, that was very strange.
Yeah.
So we'll and on that as well, just take a look. The cryptos are really under press right now. You have a number of bankruptcies being filed and so forth, and platforms going under, and you see executive flight from these companies. So if you look at the high energy costs associated with them, the banning in places like China, it's a difficult question with the crypto. I know that the argument is that you can do it without the government knowing, but as the governments can find it very easily, it becomes more difficult to do without actually filing. So I would look at the fiat currencies as a way to look at currencies, not necessarily the cryptos, but that's just me. So with that, we'll wish you a good day, and we'll be back to you tomorrow to talk more. And thank you very much. Bye.